And welcome to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast. My name is Jesse, and I'll be your host. So, on today's episode, we are going to actually go right down to downtown Baltimore and go try to, lick all of the Marbles' stuff to go curse them because they're trying to be the filthiest people alive. And then we're also going to go shoplifting. And, I don't know. But what we're doing today, though, is today on this episode, we are going to be covering the one, the only 1972's Pink Flamingos. Now, this movie is near and dear to me, like a lot of John Waters' movies are. We'll get into it. But I couldn't do this alone, though. I needed to bring someone with me to talk about this film, because why the hell not? And plus, it's my show. I can do what I want. So my guest today has been on the Cult Cinema Circle podcast before. He was on the episode for Carnival of Souls. He has also been the MVP of the Movies That Made Us Gay podcast because he literally was just on it not too long ago, and he's been on like 7 episodes of that. But anyway, please welcome back to the show, Jackson Cooper. Jackson, how you doing, babe?
So excited to be back. Thank you.
Of course. I always
Don't tell the other guys, but this is my favorite podcast to be on.
Well, listen, because you and me have a little bit of a kinship because we're both East Coast boys, so we're both DC metro area. So, this is kind of why I'm sure I brought you on too. And we have other things rumbling in the mix as well of, the show or whatever. That's a little teaser for all y'all. But anyway, but actually, Jackson, funny enough, I knew I was going to do this movie and also do John Waters films in general on our show, and all of that, but you actually, when I asked you, hey, yo, come on my show, what would you cover? You gave me a list of different ones, and I was like, oh, Pink Flamingos, that's fun. So I want to know kind of why do you like Pink Flamingos? Why would you want to come and on a podcast and talk about it? What is it about
Yeah,
this movie that you like?
so I got into cult movies when I was young because there was a book
Mhm.
called Midnight Movies by Jonathan Rosenbaum, who used to write for The Village Voice, and it was just you can still find it on Amazon used for like $7, and it was this book that had all of these black and white photos from Rocky Horror Picture Show, Eraserhead, and this movie called Pink Flamingos. And what was really interesting, because I hadn't seen Rocky Horror Picture Show quite yet, I assumed all of the movies that were cult movies were in black and white, including Rocky Horror Picture Show, because all these movies had, the black and white photos. So I was very young when I bought this book, obviously, and so I read about in there Pink Flamingos because they said that the midnight movie craze sort of was kicked off because of, there was Night of the Living Dead in 1968 and then Pink Flamingos. And Jonathan Rosenbaum wrote about it, where it was just someone eats dog feces. There's this, the main character is a drag queen, playing a female kind of stuff, and it's the most disgusting movie ever. And I said, I have to watch this movie, but you couldn't find it anywhere on DVD. And so I finally found it on DVD when I was too young to watch Pink Flamingos, and it's always held a special place in my heart because it's such a we'll talk about how ridiculous it is, but it was one of the first movies to really shock me. And still to this day, when I watch it, it is completely shocking to watch. Yeah. But I loved the mythos of it. I loved the legacy. I loved the reputation of it. And that aside, I just love the movie so much. It's just it's one of those, how the fuck did this get made kind of movies. Who thinks of this shit? And then to think that this is the guy who directed Hairspray and
Mhm.
Serial Mom and Cecil B. Demented, you're just oh yeah, okay, it makes sense a little bit now. But the guy who did Hairspray, it's crazy. Yeah,
I
I
know.
love the film.
Yeah, no, totally. I agree. I think for me at least, so thank you for sharing that. But you know, I for me at least, you know, I'm on a similar kind of, you know, path with that. You yourself are I'm from Baltimore, Maryland
Yeah.
specifically. Where are you from exactly, or where did you grow up?
Manassas, Virginia, so near
Right.
Baltimore.
Exactly. Like
Yeah,
right down south for sure.
yeah,
So for me, being that I was from Baltimore, right? You know, and my exposure to John Waters was really through the 1988 Hairspray, which to this day is, and it probably won't change too much, even though I haven't seen all of his movies, but it's my favorite. I love it so much. Fuck Me Up Divine, Fuck Me Up Ricky Lake, like all of it. Like it's a great movie. And it's his most accessible one, obviously, too, because it's the literal one that's PG. But anyway, but I found that out and I was like, okay, cool, great. But then finding out, like, oh no, John Waters had these like really gross movies before. That's all he did
yeah.
before that, really. Um, and I think I saw Pink Flamingos probably when I was a teenager ish or something. Somehow I was able to watch it. Either there was on TV somewhere where I was on like a premium channel that I watched or something. I don't even know. I feel like it was on IFC or Sundance. I always come back to
It was
them.
on
Um,
IFC. Did you say that? I think it was on
yeah,
IFC for a long
yeah,
time.
yeah.
For a
Something
while.
like that. Yeah, they would be on there. And so I was like, what the fuck is this movie though? Like, whatever. And so for me at least, like yeah, just having somebody like John Waters who's literally from Towson Lutherville, I know where that is, I've been there plenty of times, um and knowing that like he did what he wanted and he got out and he is living his dream, you know, and that was like super cool. And then just like the whole thing with the Dreamlanders, we'll probably talk about that a little bit. But you
Yeah.
know, I just feel like he is one of my favorite directors because he's a good time Baltimore guy, you know, and he's like so he seems like he's just so unaffected by, you know, his fame in a weird way, and he's still ridiculous, and I just love him for it, like honestly. So I mean that's my connection to him and all of that. But yeah, that's pretty much what that was. It's just this is his first film that he did that was like kind of like here's a big thing, you know, even though I know he did stuff before that, but still.
Well, some, but this was his big breakthrough, and I think the thing that resonated with me was, and what I love about midnight movies is how the fame gets away from the filmmaker. And so the fact that this was literally put, like the canisters were taken from into the car of I forget the executive's name at New Line, and he would just drive it around from like town to town, and like the
Bob
seven.
Shea is what you're thinking
Shea,
of.
that's right. Yeah, Bob Shea. Bob Shea would just drive around Pink Flamingos and show it at midnight screenings and college screenings, and it just found this huge audience of people, and specifically young people who just the like connected to the anarchy of the story and everything like that. I just there was something so hopeful about that too, you know, that it's like people connect to the art that they want to see. And yeah, it's a but I agree with you too. I think for me John Waters was the fact that he had the glee of this sort of young filmmaker like throughout his entire career, and just never censored himself, and sort of just kind of went bigger and bigger and bigger with each thing. um it was just it was exhilarating. And the Dreamlanders reminded me of me and my friends when we would make movies in high school, you know, just in the backyard with a camera. It was just like, you know, you use the same cast, the same locations, but it's a different movie. And so there's, yeah, I have a deep nostalgia for this movie in particular, but all of his works I love to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, yeah, and again, just like these things that people don't always kind of get of like, you know, the fact that he has people with Baltimore accents and people are just like, oh, is that how people really talk in Baltimore? I was like, some of them, yeah, every so
Yeah.
often, sometimes. And even myself, like, I don't have like a super thick, but oh, I can turn it on, hun. Oh, you know, it's just like, it's very much that. And I just oh god. Anyway, we'll move on with this is just gonna be turning into a John Waters love fest if that's the case. We got to move on with the actual show.
We
But
love you.
of course, yes, we love you. Please come on the show. I'm sure you can work Zoom, John Waters. It's fine. But anyway, so um, but this movie, Pink Flamingos in particular, we'll get onto some of the figures of the movie. So it was released March 17th of 1972. And then it was literally directed, written, and produced by John Waters because he had no one else to do it, pretty much. We're looking at a budget of about $12,000, which is apt, if anything. I wouldn't say it's surprising, but all right, fair enough. I don't really have like concrete box office information about this. Do you have any of that or anything like that?
Off the top of my head, I know that it made a lot of money eventually, but
It
when
did. That's
first,
true.
obviously from the screenings, but also from home video,
True.
and these underground screenings. But I don't know the figure.
I don't either. I'm sure it made at least over $1 million at some point, but girl, who knows? We're looking at about an 84% on the tomato meter, so that technically I think is a certified fresh, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't fucking know why, but okay. And then a 72% from audiences, and then a 6 out of 10 on IMDb, and then a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. So that's what we're looking at in terms of the figures. Some critical response quotes of the movie from some critics are we have Karina Montgomery from Cinerina, who states people complain about shock cinema and how far it will go now to penetrate our jaded, desensitized sensibilities. Come meet the grandfather of it all. I don't know if that's a negative one, but okay, whatever. With the Variety staff says it's one of the most vile, stupid, and repulsive films ever made. We're getting it. All right, we're getting it.
Yeah, got
it. And then we have, of course, Roger Ebert, the author of Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. God damn it. Oh, don't worry. We're going to do an episode on it. Don't you worry.
Yes.
We're going to. I already have a guest in mind and everything. But anyway, Roger Ebert said, I am not giving a star rating to Pink Flamingos because stars simply mean not to apply. It should be considered not as a film, but as a fact, or perhaps as an object. Which, you know what? Fair. I will take it. Like, yeah, this movie is that. Like,
that review was that savage. That's a savage review, Roger.
He did, yeah. I mean, listen, like, he's just like, it's an object, it's a thing, it's not an actual film. I'm like, okay, listen, all right.
Listen, John Waters was the one who said Beyond the Valley of the Dolls was the best thing Roger Ebert ever wrote. So,
oh my god, completely. Yeah, of course. Our cast, we have Divine, or Glenn Milstead, pretty much, who is playing Divine / Babs Johnson. We'll get into it. David Lochary is Raymond Marble, and Mink Stoll is Connie Marble. Marion Vivian Pierce is Cotton, who is, I guess, the daughter of Babs or somebody. Danny Mills, his one and only like role ever, as Crackers. Edith Massey as Edie. Cookie Mueller as Cookie. Channing Wilroy as Channing. We're getting real creative with the character names. And then we have some supporting roles of like Paul Swift as the Eggman, and then Susan Walsh as Susie, one of the prisoners at the Marbles. We'll get into it. And then we have like random people like Steve Yeager, who literally, if I'm not mistaken, he did the documentary Divine Trash, I believe, which is a documentary you can do. It might be the same Steve Yeager, who I think also is a professor at Towson in the film program, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm thinking the same guy. He actually plays one of the reporters at the end, which is fun. And then like Vincent Peranio, who is like I believe he's like one of the production designers. He was like a musician at the party that they have, shit like that, And then, also we have Elizabeth Coffey as a transgender woman who gets accosted by Raymond Marble, and we'll talk about that scene.
Right.
We'll talk about it. But yeah, so that's our and then of course we have John Waters doing his best Baltimore accent with Mr. J, where he's just talking about, the downtown, the teeming metropolis of downtown Baltimore, and all that. But yeah.
The narrator, folks. The narrator,
Mr. J is what they call him, or it's what he calls himself. Fun little thing before we move into any production history. So if you don't already know with John Waters and this narrator, he actually based it off of a local like wig salesman kind of guy. I don't remember the guy's name, but he was like some guy in Baltimore who literally made wigs for people of color, and he would like, like advertise on TV, be like, hey, here's this toupee you can have. Then, oh, here's this like wig you can have, and whatever. He had like a real thick Baltimore accent, and John Waters wanted that guy to be the narrator of this movie, but then he asked him, and then he was like, no, no, no.
I can't do it.
So I can't do it. Like he wasn't into it at all. And so then because of that, like he just made fun of him and did his own accent. But he was literally making fun of this like, niche wig salesman from Baltimore who had these like random ass like commercials on the TV and things like that. So I just thought that was kind of fun. But yeah, anyway, exactly. So what we're normally going to do on the show, we'll go through some production history, we'll go through like a plot breakdown kind of, although with this kind of movie there's not much of a plot, but we'll go through some of it, and then we'll also talk about the characters, the legacy the movie's had, shit like that. You know what you come for. So yeah, Jackson, I'm not too on the spot, but do you have any particular production history that you found out about this movie, or that you know about it, before I move into a little bit of what I found out about it?
I think the biggest thing for me was I vaguely recall, and I don't know if you have this, but I vaguely recall reading somewhere that he still didn't have permits to film most.
Oh, absolutely not.
Which is typical early John Waters. I think, I don't know if it was Mondo Trasho or one of the early ones where he literally got arrested for not having a permit. No, I think I remember the only thing I remember from the production history was that every single place was like a friend's house, or an abandoned this or that or the other. And then I think famously that the final shot where Divine eats dog shit was actually real, and
Yes.
that Divine would do anything for John Waters essentially, and so John made her put it in the mouth. And people, there's a myth that Divine, like, you can see Divine chewing it, and as well as, I mean, disgusting stuff. But Divine, I think, said that she put it in her mouth, and then immediately John yelled cut, and they like sprayed a hose in her mouth to wash it out. But that's real. But that's like a completely real shot at the end.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. And I always kind of figured it was. But yeah, I mean, the basic idea, I mean, I didn't go into a ton of John Waters history. The basic idea is that John Waters was born in Baltimore. He was brought up in a Catholic family, as many of people were. My mother was. I'm sure a lot of other people were too in Baltimore. Go watch The Keepers on Netflix if you want to have a fucking crazy ass. Oh my God, it's so good. Have you seen it at all or no?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Ooh, The Keepers is real good. It's about this cold case. It really is a cold case of a nun that was killed in the late 60s in Baltimore, and it's like real good, and it's gonna make you trust nobody. Anyway, so but pretty much like he like went to, I think, Catholic school and all that kind of stuff, but he just was like fucking done with all of it. He was so enamored with like Little Richard and Elvis Presley and like all of these different kind of like punk shit, and like again, like Motown and like rock and roll, if you will, which was different than his normal ass like conservative ass Baltimore parents, you know what I mean? Because again, folks, Baltimore technically is in the South, so we kind of have a weird mix of things. Like, we literally legalized weed like not too long ago, which is nice. But you also have some conservative ass people in this state too. You just kind of come with the territory, if anything. But it's one of those things where I think he just had such a punk sensibility to him. And, he went to NYU. He got kicked out of there for smoking weed with some of his friends. But he was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to make some movies. And that's literally how it kind of came to be with him. And so he made like Eat Your Makeup, Mondo Trasho, the Diane Linklater story, I believe. Sorry, go ahead.
Which one?
Oh, so the Diane Linklater story, which was like a literal kind of play on an actual case of Diane Linklater, I believe. It was that, like I said, Mondo Trasho, Eat Your Makeup, all these, which were like really super low budget things.
Something in something in Spike Teal's.
Yeah, something like that. But then he
made a bunch of short films first.
Yeah.
And his first one was I think it was called Devil in Black Heels or something like that. But it was about a woman who marries a black man, and the wedding is officiated by a member of the KKK. And as they're driving away on their honeymoon, both the man and the woman are dressed as JFK and Jackie Kennedy, and the black man, I think the black man, gets assassinated. It's a wild
craziness
movie for that. And it's funny, shout out Criterion Collection for restoring many of John Waters' early stuff, including Multiple Maniacs, which looks fantastic in 4K. But I was reading an interview with somebody that said, Mondo Trasho, which I think was his first big breakout short film, will never be released because it's a silent movie with music, and all the music is all the rights tied up with it are we will never see it because of that. I think we're off to see The Wizard from Wizard of Oz, so it's like it'll never be released because of all the rights. But he made all those. Mondo Trasho, I think, was made, from what I understand, for $30, and he screened it at a church, and it made back its $30 and actually made a profit, which sort of led him to make Multiple Maniacs, which was his first feature-length movie, and not quite as shocking as Pink Flamingos, but it has some shocking moments.
You have the sexual assault with the lobster. You have Divine running through the street and getting shot by the police at the end, I believe.
In one scene, Mink inserts a rosary somewhere on Divine. I won't say where.
Yeah, just good. Good. This is a family-friendly show, Jackson, and you bringing your goddamn filthy mouth. Oh my god.
Let's clarify before we go on. Let's clarify to the audience at home. It is a giant lobster that mounts Divine and begins to assault her. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Just in case people were still
just in case you were wondering. And also
back on that, how does she it's a person in a giant lobster costume, mounts Divine, and forces himself onto her.
Well, listen, that's exactly what happens in that movie. But I mean, so pretty much like, all right, cool, great, lovely. Like, he makes this movie, Multiple Maniacs. I don't care that much about that movie, to be honest, but whatever. I watched it. But Pink Flamingos, I do own the Criterion collection of this. It comes with a pink Flamingo bag, which is like a puke bag that they give you, which they did give out to people when they first did it.
Screenings,
yep. But pretty much, I mean, really, I think he just wanted John Waters to make another movie, really. This is it's not a continuation really of Multiple Maniacs, but I guess Divine is still playing herself. She's just now under the pseudonym of Babs Johnson, because she was doing some shit in Multiple Maniacs. But anyway, I mean, like, pretty much Divine's friend Bob Adams, who's I believe probably in this movie, describes like this trailer that they have set in. It was a hippie commune in Phoenix, Maryland. If you're not I don't expect any listeners to be familiar with Maryland unless you live here, I guess. But Phoenix is kind of out in the sticks a little bit. It's like right between like Harford County and like where I used to live actually, but also Baltimore County as well a little bit. It's actually I think in Baltimore County technically. But anyway, so it's a little bit more rural, I guess. And there is somebody who I think lives on the property where this trailer was actually, and they have they know about it and everything like that. It's like an old guy and his wife. But anyway, I mean, yeah, it was like a hippie commune, like, you know, fucking they were just trying to live, man. I mean, like, for example, like John Waters and Mink Stoll, they lived at the Marbles' house. It's literally where they lived. You know, like they were just this was guerrilla filmmaking at its best, really. I mean, generally also this movie, it started in 1971. It was shot October of 1971 and ended in January of 1972, which is why you can see people's breath throughout this whole thing, because it was all done during the cold months.
Yeah.
That is exactly why. And it gets cold up in this bitch in Maryland, if you didn't already realize.
The sun is still out. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Well, the sun is still out, yes, but still it's like fucking cold. Yeah. Like I don't know, I don't really know. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, Washington's not like, because Washington doesn't have nice days every day either, right? I mean, like, no. Y'all have some seasons.
No. But it gets dark. It gets dark here a lot. Yeah.
Oh, true. Yeah. Oh,
well. It doesn't get that hurt your face cold that I know Baltimore, parts of, you know, all of that where the cold front comes in every year. Yeah.
We're on the fucking coast and everything like that. Y'all are on the nice coast where y'all have all that. We're on the bad coast where like literally like it's fucking horrible sometimes. And then plus also we have the humidity here too. So like it's not Florida level bad, but like it's still pretty bad. It's hot as shit today. It's hot as shit right now. Not in my place where I'm at, but today it was. So I'm just saying. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, like Pink Flamingos is pretty much just like underground filmmaking at its best, pretty much. I mean, yeah, like this movie is just fucking like there's not much to it really. Like John Waters wanted to make a movie. That's really it. And so, you know, if anything, like that is what came of this. The release of this movie, it was shown at a film festival. It was it was a film festival at the University of Baltimore, which is still a university that is in Baltimore City, technically. It sold out tickets for 3 successive screenings, and it had a bunch of people who were just kind of interested in it. They just figured out what it was, and then that's kind of how it got its, like, I think from the word of mouth it had, that's why people like in New York, in Philadelphia, these different places were like, hey, have you seen this movie? Have you heard of this movie, Pink Flamingos? It's fucking crazy. And children, before before computers and all this shit, because me and Jackson are old ladies, and we remember a time before you
talk to your friends.
You did
go see a movie.
You really did. You had to like tell people like, hey, go see this fucking weird movie, and like, you know, call them on your phone that wasn't in your like fucking pocket. Like it would be on the wall, or you'd have like a rotary phone or like something like that. I wasn't old enough for the rotaries, like I'm not that old, but like yeah, exactly. But anyway, so I mean, yeah, but the big thing with go ahead, sorry.
So after the film festival, it got picked up by New Line, Bob Shafe.
It did.
Bob Shafe, who I don't know how he heard of it. I'm sure it was something like, you know, his nephew told him, or he got wind of it, again, word of mouth. But it was New Line Cinema, huge theatrical or pretty big theatrical distributor at the time, picked it up and started to distribute it, and specifically marketed it towards college students as a midnight movie and screening at the
I love how you also are giving New Line Cinema a lot of credit right now, because New Line at this time was not actually a big distributor. I
No.
believe it was literally Bob Shea, who was, I think, a lawyer by trade. Literally just to make money, he, I believe, was like you were saying, he did have this movie. I'm sure he had some softcore porn up in there that he
Oh
was like
God,
distributing,
easily. Yeah. But
and also funny enough too, with like Last House on the Left, I mean, this is right around that same time. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if he was involved in that movie. I feel like he somehow was, or like was. I know it was Wes Craven and Sean S. Cunningham. I know they both were part of it, obviously, but I feel like Bob Shea was in there somewhere where he was like, I mean, I guess I'll like see if people want to watch your movie. I don't
Sure.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I am giving it a lot more credit because New Line, as we know it now, is very reputable. But you're
Yes.
right, at the time it was
Yeah.
literally nothing. But I think it was a good business move on Bob Shea's end, where it was
It's
just sort
true.
of capitalizing on youth culture and what people were talking about, which is
Absolutely.
all what you know, if you're a movie executive, that's all your life is what are people talking about and how can we make money off of it.
True.
But I think what's important for listeners to understand is that like that was kind of a really solid stamp of approval
Mhm.
uh, for a movie like this. Like the independent film craze was not taking off quite yet.
No,
Um,
not at all.
the studio system was dead, like completely dead
Yeah.
after 1968, 67, 68. So movies were pretty much floundering, and it was just like nothing was really coming out of Hollywood, USA, really. Um, there were a bunch of, Scorsese was still in school.
Yeah.
Romero had done Night of the Living Dead,
Hmm.
and so but there wasn't a cohesive thing, sort of graduation for indie filmmakers to make a film and
Right.
then go be a big budget person. So for a distributor that took a movie like Pink Flamingo seriously is
Hmm.
really valuable. And one thing that I think in terms of film history is very important, because it's like this was some guy, yes, who wanted to make money off of it, but
Yeah.
a guy who took a chance on a movie that kind of, I mean, I love it, but it's like in hindsight retrospect it shouldn't work. It
No,
shouldn't
not at all.
work as a popular film. But it was such a cult underground thing, and New Line sort of said, brought the cult underground outside of Baltimore and made it a national cult underground thing, which is fascinating.
Absolutely. And I think, and you bring up a good point, because even me and our girl Pickens, hey Pickens, we talked about this during Sorority Babes, like, but we talked about how, like, you know, when home video came out, it changed the landscape, because
Yeah.
then you could have first off, you could own physical media, which was a huge thing, but then it gave people a chance to actually have a film industry that was not I wouldn't say it was democratized, but it definitely was a little bit more accessible. You could have people like Brink Stevens, Linnea Quigley, Michelle Bauer, be these like scream queen actresses, right? They were never going to be in fucking like Hollywood ass movies. It's just not how they were, So with something like this, I mean, it is very much a movie that was just made as something to shock people, to be filthy, really, and all that. But and it's interesting you say that, like, yeah, when you think about it, like, we're coming up at the end of the sexual revolution, so we're going to go into history too. So we're coming up on the sexual revolution. So the 60s have ended. um Civil rights. So we have people who were assassinated. So Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, all of this. So black people are like, fuck everybody, fuck all these white people, pretty much, and fuck this system of racism and systematic racism. Queer people are like, fuck you guys, like, we're going to have Stonewall because y'all are like treating us like criminals, and this is horrible. We then have women being like, hey, I am trying to be more liberated and not be like a fucking housewife. And yeah, I want to be able to take a pill that doesn't, allow me to I want to have a pill so I don't just get pregnant every time I have sex. That'd be nice. Oh, and also I actually want to enter the workforce and like try to be an independent person and not be, put with my husband I'm supposed to have. So the 60s were a lot, which is why movies like Night of the Living Dead, you could dig into all of the subtext there and you could dig into all of that. But as you were saying, to come back to your point, yeah, when I think about it, there wasn't like a huge movie that was like, here's the shining beacon, right? Like we didn't have blockbusters. We didn't have like, I don't know, we didn't have a ton of that, really, like that I can think of.
Well, this is 72, so we didn't get
Yeah,
it until 2 to 5 years after this. So
true,
it's only after, and you brought up a good point. I mean, this sort of exhaustion of society, and especially like young
true.
people who were, either like living through high school and they dodged the draft, or they
Yeah,
didn't go to Vietnam, or they saw their older brother. I mean, just this like pent up frustration
right.
that of a system, that to see rebellious art like Pink Flamingos, which is
Hmm.
all about pure anarchy.
Yeah.
It is just about fuck the system. There is no.
John John Waters, I listened to the commentary yesterday on the Criterion. There's two of them. I listened to the newer one, from 2001 or whatever. And he said that this is like cinematic terrorism. That's
It
kind
is.
of what he set
It's
out for it, really.
completely, and they felt that they could own it. I think
Hmm.
the midnight movie craze, one of the things I found so fascinating about it when I was reading it as a kid, was it was like there was such an ownership over these movies, and we see it most now in Rocky Horror Picture Show, where it's like
Of course.
every generation owns Rocky Horror in one way or another.
Right.
But back then, they owned Pink Flamingos, they owned
Yeah.
Eraser, they owned Reefer Madness. Like there was
Yeah.
just ownership, that it was like, this is something that is ours and no
Yeah.
one else can have it or appreciate it like we do. And there was a freedom
Totally.
in a sense, like cinema became about freedom. And it was just great. I mean, again, that's why I love this movie in particular, because it was just like, it's like at that time people just went crazy for it because they were so craving
Hmm.
seeing nothing that was real, because what was real was affecting them, so they
Right.
wanted to see somebody burn it all down, and John Waters burned it all down with this movie.
I
It's
agree. Yeah. And it's so interesting too, because I mean, I can't predict the future or anything, but just with the state of how the world is going right now, because we're repealing shit and we're going back into like the fucking crazy ages or whatever. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if history repeated itself and people were like, you know what? Fuck this. We want to see stuff that is like totally like barrier breaking
yeah,
and all that kind of stuff,
yeah.
like it wouldn't surprise me at all. um yeah, listen, we get history lessons on this cinema
Girl,
podcast all the
you
time.
know, this is an educational podcast for the entire family. Uh,
Exactly, all of it, every single one.
I do want to add about what I think what was great about this movie at the time and people watching it.
Hmm.
Yes, they didn't know what to expect, but also they loved it. Like
Yeah.
people just embrace, and didn't just embrace it for what I mentioned, where it was like, this is ours, this is this. They just loved it because it was this rebellious, ragtag group of
Hmm.
losers,
Yeah.
uh, who just were setting fire to everything. And the plot is about fucking the system up. I mean,
It
and
is.
to find the most disgusting person in the world, and here are the marbles, who are this uptight, sort of almost a very 1950s
Hmm.
Eisenhower kind of couple, and then this really, the Johnsons and Divine and all of them, who
Right.
are just complete outskirts of the city and
Yeah.
suburbia and all this stuff. So it's just, I love it because it's like they're all terrible people, but
Right.
it's this sort of middle class versus, versus the other, and the other wins in this situation.
Yeah, even John Waters said on his commentary, like it's almost like it's a truly Catholic story in a way,
Yeah,
because they're all horrible, but like the villains of the story like actually get their comeuppance. They
yeah,
do get
yeah.
punished.
There's
Like,
redemption in it. There's redemption in it. And
right.
what I love about Waters is he himself is such a cinephile. He is such a
Agreed.
he knows movies. Like he knows what is good. He's often said like Wizard of Oz is his favorite. He considers the best
Mhm.
movie ever and stuff. And he talks about Jean-Luc Godard. He talks about Truffaut. He talks about
Yeah,
Hitchcock. I mean, he knows what he's doing. So when you watch this, you don't think you think it is by a film school dropout, and it is,
it
but
is. Yeah,
it's also this very serious piece of filmmaking that he is, and he knows what he's doing in the film, which
absolutely.
I'm always blown away by. I'm like, everything is intentional in this movie. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, and again, I think it also goes back to like the fact that he was just this weird kid who I don't think like he did not fit in his community of Towson Lutherville. Like he was kind of an outcast, and so was Divine as well. Like, again, children, anybody who listens, like me and Jackson, how old are you, Jackson, if I may ask? I'm 31.
29.
So you're like a baby. But no, I'm just kidding. But
Still a
no,
millennial. I'm still a millennial.
you're still a millennial. Yes, we're like not far in age. But I think we can even remember a time. I remember a time where like I lived through like the 2000s and how fucking crazy it was with like you didn't talk about being gay like that, okay? Having something like the original Queer as Folk be on like,
Yeah.
cable
Yeah.
was a big deal, y'all. Like this was like a thing. Like, so like the fact that but I can only imagine back in the fucking 60s and 70s. Oh, that shit was fucking. I don't know if I could have done it. I don't know. Like, not that I wouldn't have wanted to, but like, I'm just saying it was hard. People were not acting gay up all like this. And if you were kind of this pariah. You were seen as somebody who was like dangerous to children. You were
Yeah.
seen as this like horrible thing. And the fact that this queer man and this other queer man are going out here and saying fuck you, fuck the system, and making their movies and being gay as fuck. I mean, again, it's so punk rock. I fucking love it. But
It's
again, yeah.
liberating. It's liberating, and that even when and this is what I love about him even today, it was like he never, he never sold out in a sense. He
Not at
was
all.
who he was. And that's the other beautiful thing, like especially with the Dreamlanders, was like he used the same people
Yeah.
the entire time, even when he started to make studio movies. His first studio movie was Serial Mom, or his first real sort of, tent pole
Yeah, yeah.
big budget was Serial Mom. And Mink Stoll is there as the neighbor, and
Absolutely.
so many other people who are just make cameos in that movie. And
Right.
it's almost like he never set out to be famous. He just wanted to make art with his friends, and I
Hmm.
think that's such a really beautiful thing. But you
Yeah.
know what, I tried a while ago, because I love John Waters, and one day I'll write a book about him. But like, he, I wanted to watch it, and I said like, I'm gonna watch John Waters, like as like, where's the queerness in it, like his own queerness, and like, like we were talking off mic about Greg Araki, and
Oh, of course.
all these queer filmmakers who are trying to explore sexuality on screen in a sense. And I just go like, John Waters gives no fucks about his sexuality. He's just like,
Yeah.
sex is for everybody, like be whatever
Mhm.
you want, whoever you love, who you love. And I was like, that's very refreshing in a time where Hollywood was seen as very conservative in
Yeah.
value, and they were still trying to, again, as I was mentioning earlier, this was before Scorsese. This is before, or
Yeah.
when Scorsese hit it big, and Spielberg, was still directing Alfred Hitchcock Presents. So it
Right.
was before all of these other directors came by and said, like, I'm going to have a point of view and I'm going to make movies with that point of view.
Absolutely.
Here's John Waters just being like, here's my point of view of the world and people, and I love it. So I think it's so great to see a queer
Yeah.
man make such bombastically loud movies like he does.
Absolutely. And I think, and I was watching this straight man and a gay friend of his. They had this like little YouTube series, and they talk about pink flamingos, and they both did not like it. And I was like, okay, I get it. Like, it's disgusting and like all this kind of stuff. But I was just like, maybe it's just not made for you then. Like, maybe it's just not.
Yeah.
I don't absolutely love this movie. It's not a 5 out of 5 for me, but I can appreciate what it's doing. And like, for example, like when Divine and her family find the dungeon of the marbles, and the one prisoner is just like, oh, I don't know who you are, Miss Lady, but like, he needs to get what he's coming to him. You feel, because like she's even like, Divine's just like, it's okay, like you're
Yeah.
touching her and being like, don't worry, like we're gonna get justice, like don't you worry.
Listeners, that this is a white slavery ring in the basement of a house where, yeah, just to clarify again, just to
And
clarify.
selling the babies that are inseminated of these prisoners to lesbians specifically. Yes,
It's terrifying. It's I also think he is out loud. I think most of the shock is supposed to be intentional. Um
absolutely.
because again, we're talking about it like we're like he's made this precious, like, metaphorical movie about friendship and society and rebellion. No, it's a
No.
series of really messed up vignettes
Yeah,
with a sideshow cast of freaks and losers, but it's
exactly.
beautiful because of the commitment of everybody. And
Agreed.
I was just talking about this with my mentor, who's from Baltimore, grew up in Baltimore, and or lived in Baltimore, excuse me, lived in Baltimore for a long time, knew it, and uh, Pink Flamingos, for those who are listening, was on Turner Classic Movies last week. Good for, I think Ben programmed that. Scott told me, and so he was watching it and he said, I don't know how a movie like this got made.
Yeah,
And I just kept saying, like, this, I think there was a part of John Waters that was just like, I'm just going to shock people.
absolutely.
I'm going to see how far I can go, and go there, because movies typically are very restrained and they don't
Hmm.
go there. And so if you gave him and his friends a video camera or a movie camera, they went there. It's great. It's beautiful.
Yeah, no,
But
totally.
it also is very shocking. I mean, the chicken scene is shocking.
Yeah.
The white slavery scene is very shocking.
Mhm.
The talking asshole scene is very shocking. The ending is very shocking. I mean, by the time you get to the end scene where Divine, picks up a dog feces and eats it, you're wrung out. I mean, just from
You're just
like,
like, this is too
you're almost
much.
indoctrinated with being like, I don't like, sure, of course that's gonna happen, but
Fuck
you
it,
know,
why not?
yeah, why not? But he ends it with like, what's worse than all of this is literally eating shit.
I know, seriously. And just like, yeah, no, it's so crazy. And yes, like, there can be some people who are like, oh yes, this is what John Waters like. They want to read the subtext of it. I'm like, there's not a ton of subtext
Yeah,
here.
there's no context.
Um, I don't know about that, but like, it's fine. But you can read into whatever the hell it is. And again, I think it's more so just, it is really cool that like these people just like made this fucking movie to be punk as fuck
Yeah.
and to really just do this at a time where, again, you know it wasn't cool to be gay. It wasn't really safe to do that. And the fact that you have a drag queen who is literally like, out here being, gay as shit. You have these people like, doing this. He was talking about his commentary that I was watching yesterday. He was like, I don't know how some of these people like worked. I don't know how could you work when you look like this? Like, what the hell? Like, and that's fair, which is why some people like, yeah, they'll go into self-employment. Like when you modify yourself or you just look a certain way and you're just like, yeah, how the fuck am I going to make money? Like, what do I do? Like when I, you know, either knowingly have done enough to like, augment myself to be like, well, I guess I'm going to be like a adult performer. So I'm going to make myself look, very voluptuous or whatever. But how the fuck am I going to work in a corporate setting? How do I do that? You know what I mean? Or like, how the fuck do I like work when I have all these tattoos all over me? Guess I'll go be a tattoo artist. I'll go work in something that doesn't care. You know what I mean? So, but that's an interesting point he made of just like, yeah, I don't know how the fuck they even worked. Like, how do you even live when you like look like some of these people? I was like, that's fair, I guess. Yeah, totally.
They found a place in, or he had them find a place in these movies is really
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, if anything, like I was gonna say we can move into like a little bit of a plot breakdown. So Jackson, if you had to explain
Oh
Pink
God.
Flamingos to somebody, if I know there's not much of a narrative, but if you had to explain what Pink Flamingos is about, how would you like describe it to somebody who maybe has never
Well,
seen it?
well, Babs Johnson, who is played by Divine,
Hmm.
is deemed the filthiest person alive, the most disgusting
Yes.
person alive. And a rival couple, Connie and I forget his name,
Raymond Marbles.
Raymond Marbles, who are an uptight, upper middle class suburban Baltimore. Babs.
Hmm.
Well, let me back up. So Babs Johnson, played by Divine, is known as the filthiest person alive.
Hmm.
She lives in a trailer
Hmm.
on the outskirts of Baltimore
Yes.
with her mother, who thinks she is a baby,
Yep. And lives in a playpen.
lives in a playpen, and is in love with the man who brings them eggs, which she calls
Yes.
Egg Man. Um, and then she has a brother, right? Doesn't she have a brother?
Yes, I think Babs has a brother or something named Crackers.
Crackers, and they are a misfit band of freaks, but they love each other. But they are a family, and they love each other.
Hmm.
Across town in the suburbs of Baltimore are Connie and Raymond Marbles, who are an uptight, upper middle class, hoity-toity, evil, the most evil people in the world,
Yes,
who want to seek revenge on Babs and usurp her as the filthiest person alive,
exactly.
and so resorts to murder attempts and just and
Sending feces in the mail.
sending dog shit in the mail and with a note that says "eat shit," and basically the entire movie becomes a back and forth of
Hmm.
how each couple can top one another with who is the
Yes.
most disgusting in the world.
Yeah.
And it does not end well for the Marbles.
No.
And it ends with Divine confirming her place as the most disgusting person in the world by eating a pile of dog poop. Yes.
Yes.
I
That was a
did I
great plot.
did I cover it? Oh yeah. And
That's a great plot
there's a
summary.
white slavery ring. There's a naked dude. There's a wedding. There's a
Yep.
murder.
Yep.
Crackers and Divine at one point go over to the Marbles and they lick all of the furniture.
Uh-huh. And
Yeah,
engage in incestuous fellatio. Yeah.
yes, the fact that Bambi didn't have any of this is really disappointing to me. So
Honestly, like really, I want my money back. I don't know what money I want back, but I
yeah,
want it back.
honestly, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids should have had all of this, but it didn't. So
Listen, I whatever. I mean, it's Chitty Chitty Bang Bang Witches,
I
like Fucking Mary Poppins, that bitch. Like, really? But
Ah!
anyway,
Truly scrumptious could never.
ever.
So yes, it's a battle of who is the filthier person, and it does not end. And Divine, or sorry, Babs does ultimately win out as the filthiest person alive.
She does. That's so true. It's just being a bad bitch all over the place. Love it. I also love how this did turn into Kitty's Flamingos, because
Yeah.
literally John Waters like said this is a fucking like this is a movie that like 5-year-olds like the basic premise of it is like so juvenile, you know what I mean? That literally
Oh,
he took like the inappropriate parts out, but he literally did have like literal kindergartners like reenact it, which I thought was like
I
really
haven't seen
cute.
that. That's amazing. It's amazing.
I love
Yeah,
that.
it is. It's a revenge film. It's a family film. It is about being yourself. It is about not
Mm-hmm.
letting other people tell you otherwise. Let your freak flag fly.
I
Yeah.
guess, girl. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much your plot, pretty much goes over all of it. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what this movie is about. And yeah. Are there any particular I guess if anything, like, do you have I kind of wonder because I feel like I might have at least like one or two, but like, do you have a particular favorite character in this movie? And do you have like a particular favorite scene of the movie by any chance?
Well, I I do love Mink Stole, and I think
Hmm.
Connie Connie is one of the great villains in cinema
Good.
history. Um,
There's two types of people in
oh,
this
best
world.
scene in the world. Best scene in one that's probably one of my favorite scenes. Just there are two kinds of people in this world. You're my kind of people and assholes. And it's
Oh,
very
so
clear
good.
which camp you're falling in. It's a brilliant, brilliant
Oh,
scene.
fucking love
And
it. Oh
and
my God.
Mink Stole is just so evil, such an evil bitch,
Did you
such a
know that the so Sandy Sandstone, first off, these names.
that's right.
Ah, these fucking names
Miss
that John Waters
Sandstone.
has.
Miss
Yeah,
Sandstone.
Sen. Did you know that that was a childhood friend of Mink Stoll's of hers, actually? And like that's how she kind of got the part, which was sort of fun.
And she has a
Also,
really great Baltimore accent because she goes,
she
"You
does.
don't know what's going on here. You're just a
You're
bitch.
yeah, you're a real cunt, you know that?
Okay, you know
Oh
that?"
God, it's so good. Um, Also, I may have mentioned this because by the time you're hearing this, I think I may have already been on a little show called The Horror Queers. So go check that out if you haven't already done so. But like it makes souls in that movie that I covered with those boys. But did you know that Mink Stole actually has an older sister? Did you know this?
No.
Um Mink still has an older sister, actually. I'm gonna do the research and development on the pod right now. Hold on, wait a minute. So she has an older sister, and that older sister actually was, I think, one of the first people considered, and actually, I think offered the part of Carrie from 1976.
Oh my
I didn't already
God.
know that. I'm pretty sure, like, yeah, I'm pretty sure her sister. Let me see real quick. She had a bunch of siblings, right? But I'm pretty sure I'm looking this up right now, listeners. So, talk amongst yourselves, it's fine. But I'm pretty sure. Hold on, wait a minute. Because I found this out not too long ago, and I was like, what the actual fuck? Um, yeah, she has a sister who was like in a movie, right? And because they're all she and her sister were actors or whatever, and like her sister literally like was considered for that role, and it ended up going to Sissy Spacek, of course. But I'm almost certain that that actually did happen. Like seriously, I'll have to find that out. But if you knew that, if any of you all knew that, though, I'm trying to figure out what her name was. What the fuck is her name? Ugh.
Tweet us,
I
tweet
can
us.
also cut some of this out too. Um, but yeah, so No, but I will still leave some of that in because I literally found that out. And I'm pretty sure that's actually true. Because they weren't sold on Sissy Spacek at first,
Interesting.
so for that role. But that had happened. But anyway, uh, do you have any particular scene that you liked a lot, or any sort of
Oh, I like
favorite?
that one. I like the interview scene a lot. I
Hmm.
also think I think the the wedding scene makes
Oh,
me laugh so hard because
love
it
it.
is so um it is so weird and wrong. Just
Hmm.
everything in it from them like picking her, he's like picking her up and she has this like grin on her face and everyone is so happy. It is hysterical.
They're
That,
sniffing poppers. Love that.
oh my God, it's fucking hilarious. Yeah. I was like, I wish I could write or direct a scene half as funny as that because
I
everything is
know.
so serious in that scene. Like it's not tongue in cheek. It's just like this is exactly what these people would do. It's great. I love
I
that.
agree.
What are your favorite
My
parts?
my favorite, like my favorite character. I mean, I must say, I God, I do love me some Edie so much. Like, and the reason for that is because I feel like she's just the most innocent of them all in a weird way. All she really wants is just to chill and like eat some eggs. Eggs are good depending on how you like them, and whatever. I like mine scrambled with like some ketchup or hot sauce on them. But but I love like how innocent she is, and I think she really is fairly innocent through the whole thing, really. She gets married to the Eggman. That's really nice. I love that. Uh I love how uh Cotton, who's Mary Vivian Pierce, she like tells the story of Humpty Dumpty to her, and she just loves that. I love Edie so much, dude. Like, ugh, Edith Math. uh, what with like her doing her next role in Female Trouble, where she just says, "Gays are just better. I'd be so happy if you was a fag." Oh, so good. I'm afraid you'll like, work in an office, girl. I know, I feel that. Um, and celebrate wedding anniversaries. Oh my god. Oh, so
And from
good.
what I understand, that's how she was. Like that's
Yeah.
she was, never an actress, obviously.
No.
But that's how she talked, and that's just how she was so uh,
Yeah.
it's like straightforward, just saying the lines, and that's just how
Yeah.
she was. She never got into a character or anything. She was that character, which is
Amazing.
yeah.
She's my favorite, and I just love her so much because, yeah, everyone else is kind of a villain, but like Edie's kind of like the shining grace, and she's just like so wonderful. I love her so much. Anyway, so yeah, it's just like that. There's that, and then my favorite scenes, I mean, there are some really good ones. Just like them licking everything in the Marbles' home, and then the furniture rejecting the marbles.
Yeah, right.
So fucking good.
I forgot about that. Yeah, the furniture literally throws them on the ground as soon as they
I love it.
get on it. Yeah.
I love it when they rescue the slaves from the basement of the marbles. Like, that's really fun too. Like, because yeah, it's just like real nice. Um I will say, listen, and listen, I'm a queer person, but I'm not a trans person or anything like that. But I love the scene where you have good old Elizabeth Coffee is there.
Huh?
She is like in the gazebo in like fucking Druid Hill Park or some shit. And Raymond comes up to her to, because what he does is he flashes people.
Yeah.
So we see him flash like these two ladies or whatever, these two girls in the park, where he also has like a big old sausage like tied around his dick too. Anyway, so like he like accosts this like pretty lady and all this, and like, so he like flashes her, and then she like shows her like tit to him or whatever, but then she pulls out what was between her legs, and she like shakes it back, at him. And again, if that's problematic, I'm sorry, but like, god damn it, uh it spoke to me in a way.
Yeah.
um because Elizabeth Coffey, if you didn't already know, at that point was literally like one of the first people to get a sex change at like Johns Hopkins. She then ended up getting her gender confirming surgery not too long after she shot that. And like it's crazy that like, yeah, like imagine that in 1972, like having a trans person just like fucking, you know, yeah, why not? Like what the hell? So again, that's why it's so punk rock and kind of cool. And that is one of my favorite scenes. I know it's problematic. I know it we've moved forward, but god damn it, like that just is like that's punk as fuck. I'm into that kinda in a
Yeah,
weird way.
not defending it, but
No.
it's used as comic effect,
It
to be
is, yeah. And
it's like
yeah, and
here's
yeah,
this ridiculous character of the Flasher, and he gets his with
exactly.
yeah, with
Fun
a
little fact too. So you'll appreciate this. The Baltimore Museum of Art, which I've never been to in my life,
they
but
the John Waters exhibition a few years ago.
hell yeah. And also they named the bathrooms after him
Yes,
as well.
yes.
And guess who was the first person to go and take a piss in those? Elizabeth Coffey herself. Fucking
No
loved it.
way! No
Yeah,
way!
she talks about this actually.
Oh,
Go
that's
listen to Midnight Mass from Peaches Christ. Because she does talk to she talks to Elizabeth Coffey on some episode. I don't remember which one it was. It might have been a John Waters episode. I don't fucking remember. But anyway, she talks to her, and I remember Elizabeth Coffey. She's like a really like she's just like a sweet like uh you know kind voiced soul or whatever, like an older trans lady, really nice. But she did talk about how like yeah no she went to that opening because they had the opening for this like exhibition or whatever. They named the bathrooms after him, and she was like there as like the first person who was able to do it because she was in one of his first movies, and like is for all intents and purposes a dreamlander. And again, I just think that that's really punk as fuck to have somebody who, if anything, like a small part of your crew, but like, yeah, having a transgender woman like in this movie
yeah.
was a big deal for that time. Like, and again, it's just like, I just love that scene a lot because of just how ridiculous it is, but also just like, yeah, the punk factor of it all. And then of course the ending, not the shit eating part of the ending, but like where they tar and feather them and then they pretty much kill them, the marbles. It's a whole thing. So I mean, those are kind of my favorite scenes. Again, it's not my favorite John Waters, but it's something where I mean I did spend money on the Criterion of it. Why the fuck not?
Yeah.
So it's something that I can just appreciate and enjoy for the most part. Uh and yeah, and I look forward to getting into the rest of his oeuvre and his filmography, if anything, because I haven't seen all of it. What John Waters movies have you seen
Yeah.
specifically?
Yeah, I was gonna talk about how he evolves after this.
Sure.
Because
We're
I
gonna
think
start wrapping up in a little bit anyway, but we could just kind of talk about that too. Yeah.
yeah, I think for listeners, I mean, start with Hairspray,
Mm-hmm.
move to Polyester,
Oh yeah.
or I should say and Female Trouble. And
Right.
if you get that far and you still like him, then watch Pink Flamingos. Pink Flamingos is kind of the most is the I would say is probably the most extreme. Multiple Maniacs. It's hard to put Multiple Maniacs in there because as shocking as the things we've said in Multiple Maniacs is, it's very disjointed and it doesn't make a lot of sense. He
Agreed.
tries to keep a story going, but then there's all these sort of diversions into like just scenes that make no sense, and then he comes like some of those scenes in Multiple Maniacs I genuinely do think are just for shock factor. Like they don't involve any characters in it. There's it's just random people doing gross things and just to shock it. So
Mm-hmm.
but I personally like Multiple Maniacs for just how truly guerrilla that movie. Just the movie making is like the bad lighting and the shoddy acting. But I personally, I mean, I've seen pretty much all of his movies up until I don't think I ever watched Pecker, which is a
Right.
later one he did. But I love Serial Mom. I love Cecil B. Demented. I rewatch
Uh-huh.
regularly because it's just a fucking great time. A Dirty Shame. I haven't laughed so hard at a movie than A Dirty Shame, which
Would you
is
like to
his.
know a fun little fact about where I am located? I don't know if I mentioned this. It hasn't happened yet, but so with Cecil B. Demented, I watched that on Tubi like not too long ago. And so you know the scene at the end where spoiler alert, Melanie Griffith's hair catches on fire and they have this like showdown at this drive-in or whatever. So I am located about a 10-minute drive away from that drive-in theater. And also it is a real drive-in theater called Benji's. Like it wasn't made up for the movie or anything. That's a literal drive-in theater that is still operational today and was at that time. So like yeah, like it's so like I really did love that because I literally was like, okay, this movie's in Baltimore, like obviously takes place here, blah da 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 da. But when I saw that they used Benji's, I was like, I live right fucking near there. Like, what the hell? Like, that's so cool.
Well,
I mean,
in Serial
you
Mom,
know,
they go into a club, and it was like that club was still there. I forget what the name of the club was, but it was like that club
yeah,
was there when I sent a picture of it to my mentor, and he was like, "That was there when I was there." You
yeah, of
know,
course.
it was just like it's an establishment, which is great.
Hmm.
That uses those, but yeah, I that's so funny.
Yeah,
I don't think I've seen Pecker, and
I haven't
but
either.
but I've seen Polyester. Desperate Living is great. Female Trouble,
Hmm.
all of those they're yeah, they're all great. They're all great.
Yeah,
I personally like, my favorite is, I think, probably Serial Mom or Cecil B. Demented, because Cecil B.
yeah,
Demented, because he finally gets to make a movie about movies,
I
uh,
know.
which is brilliant, and like the in jokes are great, and you could tell he's having a good time. But Serial Mom is perfect. I think Serial
Hmm.
Mom, because he has to work within a studio movie.
Pussy
A
Willows.
lot of so there's yeah, Pussy Willows. Pussy Willows Dottie. Ming Stole. Again, Ming Stole.
Amazing.
I beg your pardon. Just Kathleen Turner doing a crank
Ugh.
in the first 5 minutes.
Who, fun fact too, also, I don't know if she's from Baltimore, but she went to school here, weirdly enough, too. Like that also happened. I was like, what the fuck?
Really?
Yeah, she went to UMBC
Oh
for
my
like
God.
acting and shit. I know. It's so weird. Makes
Well,
no sense.
it's the same with like Polyester, where with Tab Hunter, where it's like just these balls to the wall performances
I
that he
know.
gets out of people. Like Kathleen Turner and Tab Hunter. It's just like wacko. I'm like, that's a great director. A great director is somebody who
Yeah.
can get like Kathleen Turner to be this sarcastic, murdering housewife who
Yeah.
is hysterical. And like Sam Waterston is great. Matthew Lillard is fantastic.
Amazing.
It's all great. Yeah. What are your favorites?
Yeah, I mean, like I've seen multiple Maniacs, Pink
Mhm.
Flamingos.
Right.
I did message you this, so I am in the middle of getting Female Trouble, Polyester, uh, God, what else is there?
Desperate
And
Living.
whatever other one is on the Criterion collection, whichever, there's four of them. I own one of them already. The other one, what the fuck is it? It's not Desperate Living. It's the other one. Polyester, Female Trouble, and then some fucking movie that, oh, Multiple Maniacs. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Never mind. Sorry.
I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's only those. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then Hairspray 1988. I'm also getting that on Blu-ray too. But
Right.
anyway, so but I have not seen Female Trouble, Desperate Living, Polyester, all that stuff. But I have seen Hairspray 98, 1988, Crybaby, which again, say what you will about
Oh
Johnny
God,
Depp.
Privacy, of course.
Yeah, say what you want about Johnny Depp. I get it, but
Great
and
film.
Amy Locane is in prison now, which is whatever. That's sad. But I mean,
That's
fucking like,
wait, real quick. That's another one like Johnny Depp. It's a great performance he gets
oh,
out
it's
of it.
good. Yeah,
Fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, no, totally. I mean, like, there's that. That was a musical, like, crazy enough.
Is
Like, it got turned into a musical. Can we take Wanda the fuck home? Like, it's so good. Rockabilly, everything about it.
so
Serial Mom, I loved. I haven't seen Pecker or A Dirty Shame. Um, I am not the hugest fan of that 2007 Hairspray. There's parts of me that like it, and there's parts of me that just look at John Travolta and I'm like, what are you doing? Why?
yeah.
Why? What is this?
Trish
Um,
Turnblade. Trish Turnblade.
Chris Turnblade. I can't. I don't understand it. And listen,
But you know what? It's a good time. I had a
it
great
is a
time
good time. I
movie.
like the music in it. Nikki Blonsky is our queer queen. Love
Blonsky.
it.
Michelle Pfeiffer is great in that. It's
But
a it's a
Jerry
packed cast.
Stiller, like, come on,
Jerry
like,
Stiller.
or no,
Zac
sorry,
Efron.
Christopher Walken. Sorry,
Yeah,
uh,
Chris Walken. But Zac Efron is great too.
he was very Amanda
Yeah.
Bynes, like, oh, our girl Brittany Snow. We love everybody. We love it. I just look at John Travolta. I'm like, what the why? But my favorite, I mean, I have to say, is Hairspray 80, not 88. I
Yeah.
mean, fucking Divine in her final role, unfortunately.
Sadly.
Ricky Lake, go Ricky, fucking that, an unknown vitamin C just
Yeah.
working, like, okay, cool, baby Josh Charles, like, come on now, like, I mean, how can, like, uh I mean, that movie is just so goddamn good.
His,
And it
his,
also has like a fun message to it. It has a really nice message to it, and I love it.
his eye for casting, like the fact that he casted, oh my gosh, I'm gonna blank on her name. She was the one who got kidnapped.
Um,
She's in Serial Mom.
oh, the one who got kidnapped. Patty Hearst.
Patty Hearst, yes. That he cast Patty Hearst after the kidnapping in
Yes.
all of those movies afterwards. And
Hmm.
she and he was just like, yeah, what else would I do? She needed work. It's just
Yeah, why not? And she's an icon because she literally had like Stockholm syndrome for her captors, and it was,
yeah. And
that
here
that
and here she
tracks.
is, and here she is wearing white shoes after Labor Day in Serial Mom. It's great.
Well, she probably well, and you know what? She deserved what came to her. That's fine. But yeah, I mean, listen, but yeah, that's like definitely my favorite. So I'm glad to add some other ones to my collection. Um, I'm interested to see like if Liar Mouth, which his other movie is kind of in the works a little bit. They kind of want to do something with it. It'll be a day when that man shoves off this mortal coil because I might need to take a day or two. Okay.
Me too. Yeah.
I
And
I mean,
he's still out there. He's touring. I've seen
mhm,
his stand-up show twice. It's great,
right.
hysterical. He's doing things for Criterion Collection. I mean, obviously his movies, but he did an amazing interview for Beyond the Valley of the Dolls.
Oh
And
yeah.
he
He did
did
an
a
audio commentary for Mommy Dearest back in the day.
right,
Like, I mean,
right. Uh-huh. Yeah. And I think he was on Drag Race. I mean,
oh yeah.
he's out there working. Our girl's working.
Our girl is working and he is getting his due. And I just love that he's like a good town Baltimore boy. I just still like I want to know if he still owns any property here. Like, John Waters, come to Baltimore like when you can. Like, please, I still love you. So whatever. I'll happily open my arms to you. Um I do love, I think I mentioned it in when I was on Movies That Made Us Gay with Beautiful Thing. I was talking about something and I was talking about Divine or some shit like that. And if you don't already know, so Divine is buried in Lutherville, Maryland, somewhere, some cemetery. And that's the same cemetery that John Waters is gonna be buried at too. And I'm just like, work, bitch. Uh, because of course the whole thing with Divine is that people are like, they make it a point, like some people who are like super fans, they've come to
Yes.
Baltimore, they go and
Oh,
see
yeah,
the
they still.
grave,
Yeah.
shit like that. Yeah. So
Yeah, they still
go
do.
go do the John Waters filming location tour if you ever come to Baltimore. Not that it's a sanctioned thing or anything. I'm sure you can find it. Maybe don't do like The Wire or like Homicide: Life on the Street. Don't do that. Don't do that filming location
No,
tour.
no,
Okay,
no.
maybe
Do the John Waters one. Do the
do the
John.
John Waters one. That might be a little bit more fun to do, because you're just driving around Towson, Lutherville, like other places, and just being like, oh hey, that's
Oh,
fun.
hey, there's that house. Yeah, there's the house.
You probably could find it. I'm sure there's places like that you could find. I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely. Go drive by Benji's, like, whatever, it's fine. But anyway, I think that that's gonna wrap it up for us, I believe. Jackson, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was kind of a little last minute thing to get you on because, like, I don't know, I wanted to talk about this movie and a bitch was free, so
Yeah,
that was
this is great.
nice.
No, no, I'm always free to talk about Pink Flamingos. So,
Of
and to
course.
come on your podcast. So
Of
thank you.
course. Yeah. Again, we have some rumblings coming in. We got some things being thought up, to
Yeah.
try to expand our brand and all of that kind of stuff. But anyway, would you like to plug your social medias or anything for people who care about any of that?
Yeah, sure. Just Instagram at jackson.cooper.arts, and that's pretty much the only one I'm on.
Nice.
Yeah, so follow me, shoot me a DM about what your favorite John Waters movie is and why I'm right and you're wrong. So that
Yeah,
would
and
be
then also find him on locally on Grinder in
oh God.
Washington.
Oh no, 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 no,
Oh, well,
no.
okay, maybe you don't find it. Okay, that's fine. You whatever. Find him on Plenty of Fish. Okay, kind of like how Lady Gaga had that in her one video, and it's fine. It's all good.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
great.
well,
Great.
thank you so much for coming on the show, Jackson, and I appreciate it and love talking to you. And I think this is a nice, fun conversation. So
Oh my
thanks so
God.
much.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.